Hello, everyone. Welcome to another 5-Minute Friday. This is Matt Palmer coming to you from the woods of Oregon. Here, I got my jacket on. It's cold and rainy outside. It really is. Of course, it's Oregon. But looking forward to bringing you some great content today on Salesforce reports. So this is definitely not a 5-minute topic. This is something that's going to be a multi-part series. But I really wanted to lay the foundation of how you can get started with reports. If you've never built one before, weren't sure even where to start, sometimes it can be kind of confusing. Just kind of going through the real basic kind of initial steps with it, the different report types, and I would say even more importantly, for our clients, what are the most common report types that we see? So with higher education as well as Enrollment Rx, what are some report types and things that you can leverage to really get some insights into your data and take action on them. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into reports. So the first thing I'm going to do here, and just as a reminder, to get to reports, you can simply navigate to that by typing in reports here. It's just a tab of information that you can access. So if I were to type in reports in this box right here, you'll notice a reports object, and it will open up right here where I can navigate to different reports. Now you'll notice in this interface, you'll see kind of these default settings such as recent reports, so things you've recently viewed, things that were specifically created by you, which is really helpful to navigate to see what you have created. Private and public reports, so reports that have a private setting for your visibility versus public reports that everybody can see. Reports that are trending, and then all reports. In addition to that, you can have folders that basically designate where these reports can live. And these folders can be controlled by a user's role. So for example, if I was an admissions counselor, the hierarchy of the roles of admissions counselor to admissions director could control the visibility on some of these reports. So that way, you have group accessibility to certain reports and folders. So perhaps you have some manager reports, but then you have some reports that everybody can see. So as we kind of navigate through this initial panel, these are kind of the basic setups where you can always create a new folder. And those folders are going to be where, when we create a report, where we can go. Now, if I go back to all reports, you'll notice here that you'll see the folder, you'll see the created by and last modified by. You can always find a report that you would like to go to, select that, and then clone or basically save as, kind of like a Word document, that report to create a new report. But for the purposes of today's discussion, we're going to go ahead and just click the new report button. Now here you'll notice that there's a new report, Salesforce Classic and new report. All that simply means is that the classic user interface has a slightly different report building user interface. And so that button can be hidden, but essentially that's a button that's here. I'm just gonna, since we're gonna stay in Lightning Experience, go ahead and just click new report. Now you'll notice it asked me to choose a report type. And there's a lot here, right? There's a lot of things that are kind of what are called out-of-the-box reports, reports that you can access. That's why you can see all these categories here to the left, and you can see a lot of different kind of out-of-the-box reports that you can reference as far as types of reports. A couple of just tips here. First one is, if you switch the Salesforce Classic interface and go back to this screen, you actually have the ability to remove any extraneous report types from this box, this dialog box, which is something I highly recommend you do, where any of these for sure, for example, price books or something like that, you most likely aren't using, just get rid of it, right? Just keep this piece as simple as possible for your counselors. Now, once you can go through that step, the next piece we can go here, though, is for, I would say 99% of our customers, the report that they typically start with is a report called applications, and I can just do a search function here with applicant. And essentially what this report is doing is it's taking the ERX application object and matching that with the applicant. Now, if you're using our functionality with the EDA application, that'd be a slightly different report type. because these are object specific, but for the majority of the time, otherwise you would probably, this is a good report type to start with. Not saying you can't use other report types, and there are other report types that are relevant, but just when you're getting your feet wet and getting started, this is a good place to start. So I'm going to go ahead and select this type, click continue, and this is what's going to bring us to the Lightning Builder interface. So just a couple quick tips here on the Lightning Builder interface is, if I go over here, the first step you should always take when building a report, no matter the report type, is go ahead and go over to the filter icon here, and you'll see a, similar to list views, a my and a date attribute. So my versus all. So what this means is that if you were building a report that you only want to see your related applications, then of course you could keep it this way. And that's specific to the user. So if I'm viewing this as Debbie Director, the same report would look different to me than it would for my counselor, because it's recognizing the user that's viewing it. So this concept of my, whatever user's logged in looking at it is going to show that user their records. If I click here to my, I can do my teams. So going back to that role and role hierarchy, you can go to a queue, or you could go to all. So I'm going to go ahead and switch this over to all applications. Click apply. Now you'll notice nothing changed here. You can refresh the data. It's kind of a preview that populates. And you can click this little setting over here to update automatically the preview. So you certainly can do that. Now date active is selected here just because it's the first alphabetical value of any date field. Typically what I will use here, it depends on the type of report you're doing, is just the some of these dates here. So for example, the application created date is just a hard-coded date stamp, where when this application created date was all time. Perhaps you'd rather have something like last 30 days. This is where you can really customize the date ranges for your different date fields. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and click out of this and click apply. I now have a baseline that says all applications that have a related contact, okay? And then show me the created date, which is all time. Now, as I look at this over here to the right, I see columns of information. Right now, nothing is sorted or grouped, and I don't have all the columns that I want. So how do I add columns? Well, the way that I can add columns is I can do it one of two ways. I can go to this outline tab, where I can search for fields of information that live on either the application or the contact record. Or I can click this little box here and just simply find it. It's kind of grouped into these buckets right here where you see the application info. But if I minimize that, applicant is synonymous with contact. I can see contact info. And this is where they kind of group kind of these standard fields. For example, this general section is kind of out of the box standard Salesforce fields, where I can see address fields. And they try to kind of group it into kind of categories so you can easily access those. But if you don't want to do it there, you could search up here, or you could search down here. So there's lots of options in how to add columns. So to demonstrate that real quick, I'm going to go ahead and choose first name. And you'll notice application, applicant. Again, where I'm looking here is for the contact field. So applicant, first name. And now by clicking that, you can notice that that's been added here. Now I can switch this up or down. So I can move applicant first name up here, and that automatically sorts the columns up here. Now I can continue to add additional fields accordingly, but just to demonstrate real quick how I can add a field from this column over here, it's very similar, is if I found the email field, see the email address of the applicant, I could double click that, and then you'll notice that that's been added automatically and also populated here. So now that I've done that, I can quickly just drag and drop here, and that sorts my columns accordingly. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and click hide fields. And now we have the baseline set up where we have some of the columns of information that we're looking for, the filter set up. And if I were to save this report and save and run this report right now, it would be creating a tabular report. So a tabular report type. What that means is it's a report type similar to like a list of records in Excel. That's just a list, right? Essentially, that's all that we're doing here. But unlike a list view, it's combining two objects together into one report, where a list view is working off of just one object at a time. So you can see here, I would be able to save and run this report. And we are going to, in our next session, talk about groupings, as well as some more advanced filter settings as we continue to build this out. So what I recommend as the next step is that you go into your org, you go to a report, create a new applications with applicant report, go ahead and select these all-time filters right now. And then when you're done with that, let's go ahead and get to the save and run aspect here. This is where you can decide, you can name this whatever you'd like. You can put a description, which is best practice. And just for right now, you can save this as a private report. But once I click run on this, what you'll notice is that nothing's summarized. I mean, it summarizes the total number of records, but essentially there's no groupings. I have no idea how many people are admitted out of this. I have no idea how many inquiries I have and so forth. And so as we look to our next sessions, we'll take a deeper dive on this and be able to segment accordingly. All right, so that was the intro to reports. So again, we just got the baseline kind of setup here of our initial report, applications with applicant, which was our report type. And from here, as we go through our next series of 5-Minute Fridays, we're gonna continue to add and enhance this report. So this will allow us to learn about different elements of report building in Salesforce, but more importantly, especially as a higher education client, how can you really customize this so you can have actionable insights for your recruitment and admissions team? So hopefully you found this helpful. Please go in, start to build out some of these elements yourself. You're not gonna break anything. And as we look ahead at our next Fridays, then you can continue to customize the report that you have. And before you know it, you're gonna be a report ninja. So once again, we thank you for joining us here from the woods of Oregon. And with that, I'm gonna go have a cup of coffee and call it a night. But I hope you guys have a great weekend and look forward to seeing you next Friday. Thanks again.